Hey guys, Savat the Mighty here, aka Doom Piggy, and I'm back with another Eve Echoes video. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the Oracle again. I did a video a little while back on a close range fit that actually used a large Nosferatu, and we're going to be revisiting that build again here today. In the previous build, I did an advanced mission, and it had less skills invested into it than I do now. So this time we're actually going to do a hard mission, and I do want to go over some of the changes that I've made to this. So, without further ado, in our high slots, we actually have the same thing. We have the Syntys C-type large pulse lasers. In our mid slots, I'm running a Upir large energy Nosferatu. I have a Keldari Navy stasis webifier. I have an interruptive warp scrambler. And I'm running a Mark 7 hammerhead for my hood ornament here today. Now in this build, this is more than a hood ornament. It actually does apply some DPS, which gives us an additional 28.5 actually. And it is at a 28 km range. That's kind of important, because the optimal range for these lasers is 27.22 km, which means that we should be within that range most of the time. So it should be applying pretty decent damage for us. 28 is still not that much, but I mean, hey, it's better than nothing, right? In our low slots, I have a Corellum C-type medium armor upper. Corellium? I'm not sure how to say that one actually. Corellium, maybe? Anyway, it's the C-type armor upper. I have two Centum C-type heat sinks. I'm going to be running one Core C-type adaptive armor hardener and a Centum C-type medium afterburner. My rigs, I have some changes done here as well. If you've seen some of my other fits, I finally did do some upgrades here. I have my normal laser collision accelerator 3 for a damage increase, and I now have two laser burst aerator 3s. Both of these are going to increase the activation time by 12.5%. Obviously there's going to be some reduction for the second one, but this ship already gets a damage bonus, so having those two added on there should help out the damage quite a bit, which it does. Now, in my other slots, I have a semiconductor memory cell 1, two of those, and in my middle one here, I have a capacitor control circuit prototype. The reason why I haven't really upgraded these as of yet is I want to wait to see where my skills finish up. Once my skills finish up for my capacitor and everything like that, and I can see kind of where I am, I might actually change some of these around for some more navigation rigs, because if I don't need the capacitor to be any better or the power grid to be fit anymore for some strange fits, then I might actually try to make this ship a little bit more maneuverable if I can. So we'll see. I haven't really quite made a decision on what I want to do with that. I might again also try to increase the power grid some more to try to equip some fancier stuff on here and see what I can push in that regard. I'm not sure yet, but I do want to get those skills first before I make any drastic decisions on some super expensive rigs down there. Alright, so again, like I said, last time we took this out, we did it again in an advanced mission, and now I'm going to do it in a hard mission. It's still going to be a news mission, so it's just going to be a quick run today, just to see what this thing can do. Its defense isn't very high, only 32,000. With the armor booster, armor hardener on, it will be a little better than this, but not too much more. The main thing here is the damage. The damage itself is at 994.3, so it should be doing some decent things. And with the large energy Nosferatu here, we should be able to stay stable. We can pretty much run everything at all times. Okay, well, if you could, please go ahead and leave a like on the video, and if you do like my content, go ahead and subscribe. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started on the mission. Alright, Gotta find my mission here, and I'm gonna go ahead and warp in at probably about 23. And let's see how this goes. Oh, while we're doing that,
Warp drive active.
our defense goes up to 35, so only getting about 3,000 defense. And our resistances are better, but not great. Whew, so for fighting up close like this may be a little more risky than I normally like to fly. Okay, so we're going to set an orbit on this guy here. And we're going to activate and fire. We're a bit out of range. We're going to set orbit at 23 is fine. Oh, we can activate this and try to zip around to get within range. Okay. So next we're going to target this blackbird here. So we're hitting at pretty decent numbers. I would say nothing really super impressive. We do have to stay pretty close though in order to get the full damage, so... We are going to change my approach to 0, just so I know I can head in. 4,800 isn't too terribly bad. When we do get into the armor, it does do far less damage though because of the resistances on the armor. We got a really good hit there though. Alright, we should be able to apply pretty much full damage to this Naga. 7,327. Alright. So I do want to get a little bit further away from the anomaly now, because the next wave is going to be spawning in, and I don't really want to be right here on 0 when that happens. Okay. Let's lock up the smaller guys first. We missed. See if we can lock him down a little bit. So yeah, this guy becomes quite difficult to hit. Let's hit one of the other targets for now, eliminate some of the damage off the table. So this is one of the things I've always said with this ship. You're going to have issues with these smaller ships. It's just going to happen. But if we actually do apply our stuff, it should be much easier. So now we're starting to actually apply some damage to him. I thought we had those on earlier, but I guess we didn't. Just move away. One of the big things about this is, as long as you don't panic, everything usually ends up being fine. We're going to start orbiting that guy. Oh, well, we're putting damage on him. This thing's just not cooperating with me today. We can take this off. And we'll put it on the closer person here. And we'll activate one of our damage mods. And we're going to go ahead and give us a little bit of repping. Yeah, you're outside of range for any of our stuff, so that's fine. Okay. So yeah, the large weapons do a pretty good job, but they're really going to hit the battle cruisers and better for tons of damage. Everything else, you really do need to have some target painters if you want to take full advantage. But I want to make sure that I can deal with the smaller ships, so it's kind of a trade-off. We're going to come in and approach here. So with the Afterburner running full time, we're doing okay speeds, but it's nothing to call home about. All right. So we got that guy dead. Now we're actually 41 km off, so we're in a better position than we were on the last time. And as long as I make sure that I'm actually using my tools properly, everything should be good. Let's go ahead and activate our damage mod again. Oh, with the damage mod active, we didn't even really showcase that. It's at 1,283 DPS. Okay. Let's come back out. Let's lock up our small ships first. Right. Let's change over to this guy. And let's go ahead and approach him. Now that we've slowed him down quite a bit, everything's just fine. Let's focus fire that guy. And start getting everybody else ready to go. Alright. So all in all, we're looking good. This guy is under our guns currently. So let's focus fire over here real quick. There's no reason to target him. And we'll let him get a little further away before we do more to him. Let's activate this. Alright, we can go back to hitting him. Everything should be okay now. Let's approach at a very slow speed. Okay. Why is it not approaching? There we go. Orbit, focus fire. Alright, so far so good. Now we're a little bit closer this time, so the last wave may be a bit troublesome. Let's start orbiting back out very far. Actually, let's just do this. Approach 100. And let's speed up. Okay. Let's see what we got to deal with. You are first on our agenda, because you're the closest. Alright, next will be our friend. Let's just stop him real quick in his tracks. And we gotta create a little bit of distance before we can start hitting them. But everything should be fine soon. Here we go. Perfect. Alright, now we're going to get the Condor. And we're going to start approaching our other friend. I don't think you have a micro warp drive, but let's go ahead and use that just in case. We're going to start coming back out now, and we're actually going to manually fly away from our Condor buddy here. See if we can get a straight-on shot on him. If he comes flying straight at us, it'll be much better for us. Usually about the 9 km markers where we can start hitting decently. Okay. There we go. Let's do an orbit out a little bit. Alright. It looks like a majority of our annoying targets are dead. And we can try to get in line with the other ships now. Let's go ahead and take out the Condor. And now we're just on cleanup. Okay. Mo will be dead here in a second. And we can just sit here and trade blows with the Drake. And that's it. Pretty effective. So learning how to actually use your ship versus the smaller ships is probably one of the biggest... Well, for me, let me rephrase that. For me, it was the scariest part about using the large lasers. I didn't want to lose the ship, so I didn't take a close range fit into a lot of things because the tracking on the lasers are horrible. But having the stable capacitor means that I have a lot more confidence because I know I can continue tanking, and I will eventually kill them as long as I do place my safeguards on. Now there is something to be said for changing out the warp disruptor for another web, or even a target painter to help on the medium-sized targets. The medium-sized targets, if you can blow them up, on the smaller targets it may help. I would think multiple target painters would be needed to help tremendously, because their signature is just so tiny already. If you increase tiny by 30% or whatnot, it's still tiny. So it doesn't really help too much for the tracking of the guns. It's more of a... in my opinion, it helps way more versus the missiles, because the missiles, the size and everything like that, it's a much more noticeable increase in the actual damage, where the speed seems to make a huge difference in the actual range. Like anything between 6 km and your ship 0, you're pretty much not hitting anything. And so you do need to be able to make that range, make that difference, which has something to say about possibly running a micro warp drive. But if you get scrammed in return, the micro warp drive really isn't going to help you out because you won't be able to get that distance anyway. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I was thinking about seeing where my ship was at and thinking about maybe some velocity rigs, because if I can get this thing doing a bit more, maybe with a double web, higher tier web and things like that, I can get them slowed down so I can get that range that I need. Almost all the times it's going to be okay. And your regular missions, your storyline missions, I wouldn't really recommend a fit like this. You would need a little bit more tank, in my opinion, if you're going to be up close with a bunch of ships. And especially for your like elite frigates that are going to be buzzing around you. I don't really know how effective one of these battleships would be at actually fighting those guys off. So that part has always scared me on using a close range fit in a story mission. There's got to be a way to do it effectively, And so I want to look into that and see if I can determine a way to make that work. I think if any ship out of all of the attack battle cruisers that use the large weapons, I personally think the one that would be best at these short-range weapons is going to be the Oracle here. The Oracle, its optimal range is much farther than the rest of them, so even though it is the short-range weapons you're talking about, when things get under the large weapons, it gets harder and harder to hit. So your other two ships, if you're too close, you're not really hitting anything. If you're too far away, you're going to be taking a damage loss from the fall off. So personally, I think this would be the best at the brawling builds for this ship. But is this ship actually really good at brawling? I mean, yeah, it can do it, but it's going to be just like every other ship in its class. It's meant to take really large weapons and hit really hard with them. To capitalize on that, you're going to want to use more damage mods with this ship. When you're hitting smaller ships, it's just going to automatically do less damage. These are really meant to be taken against higher tier encounters, in my opinion. So the tier 9 encounters that you run into, I really want to try out this fit in one of those. You have some battleships that you attack, and I think this is going to do pretty solidly versus battleships and some of the heavier cruisers. I think it would work nicely. The one problem I do see, again, is versus all the tinier ships. So that being said, whenever you're doing these smaller missions here that your biggest target is a battle cruiser, I still do think medium weapons are probably going to be your best bet for fighting these and doing these missions as quick as possible. But it is real fun to use the large weapons and see some of that big damage. Next time I bring this out, I probably will be trying out one of the mid-range encounters that are supposed to be T9s to get some battleships and everything in there and see how this actually performs versus that. For now, I think it's doing pretty well, and I'm really excited to see where it ends up when I have all the skills. All the skills I think are going to make a huge difference in this ship. And just the next skill I train is going to put it over 1000 DPS and a lot less energy draw. Now, I don't need to have a large energy Nosferatu on here to make this cap stable in the way it is right now. One of the reasons why I like the large energy Nosferatu is because of the range that it has. It actually lets me drain that cap from further away. So I can actually make use of the entire optimal range, pretty much, without having to give up the ability to actually drain. If this ship does become cap stable with the skills, and I don't even need to have a Nosferatu in order for it to be cap stable, that's when I can start looking at other avenues of items. So, for example, we may put one of the builds with a large afterburner in here instead of the Nosferatu. Now I know once I add any of those large equipments, it's going to make it not cap stable again, but seeing exactly where it is and how many minutes that we have left, hey, it might actually end up being okay. Or who knows, maybe even putting a large armor repper on there. There's a lot of different things that might be able to be done, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the future. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and end this video here. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Take care. Goodbye.